Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. Genesis chapter 6, verses 9 through 14. The Lord then said to Noah, Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made. And Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. Genesis chapter 7, verses 1 through 5. So Noah, his wife, and his sons and their wives left the boat, and all the large and small animals and birds came out of the boat, pair by pair. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as burnt offerings the animals and birds that had been approved for that purpose. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice, and said to himself, I will never again curse the ground because of the human race, even though everything they think or imagine is bent toward evil from childhood. I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. Genesis chapter 8, verses 18 through 22. Then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, Be fruitful and increase in number, and fill the earth. Genesis chapter 9, verse 1. I will require the blood of anyone who takes another person's life. If a wild animal kills a person, it must die, and anyone who murders a fellow human must die. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed, for God made man in his own image. As for you, be fruitful and increase in number, multiply on the earth and increase upon it. Genesis chapter 9, verses 5 through 7. And God said, This is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Whenever I bring the clouds over the earth, and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you, and all living creatures of every kind. Never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. Whenever the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it, and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures of every kind on the earth. Genesis chapter 9, verses 12 through 16. The English word sign in these verses is the Hebrew word oth, and it's the same word used when talking about the mark of Cain. We don't know for certain from Scripture what the mark actually was, if it was a symbol or monument, or a literal miracle that would manifest, like it is for the rainbow. But Solomon said that there's nothing new under the sun. So it's my belief that whatever it is something that we would recognize as a symbol still in use today. After the flood, Noah began to cultivate the ground, and he planted a vineyard. One day he drank some wine he had made, and he became drunk, and lay naked inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked, and went outside and told his brothers. Then Shem and Japheth took a robe, held it over their shoulders, and backed into the tent to cover their father. As they did this, they looked the other way so they would not see him naked. When Noah woke up from his stupor, he learned what Ham, his youngest son, had done. Then he cursed Canaan, the son of Ham. May Canaan be cursed, may he be the lowest of servants to his relatives. Genesis chapter 9, verses 20 through 25. But why was Canaan cursed for what Ham did? God had himself already blessed Noah and his 3 sons, telling them to be fruitful. Noah did not have the authority to contradict the blessing that God had already pronounced. He could, however, deliver the verdict down onto Ham's descendant Canaan, and onto Canaan's descendants after him. The really interesting thing about God's verdict on Adam is that the punishment is passed down the family line to all of humanity. It was the whole family of Adam and Eve that was punished for their sins. Likewise with Noah's son Ham. The punishment for his sin was visited on his descendants for generations to come. We know that God lays the sins of the parents upon their children, but he also, obviously, judges the children on their own merits as well. In God's dealings with this world, he weighs out justice for everything and everyone, from individuals and families to cities and nations. It started with his verdict on human life in the garden, and it's been weighed out precisely ever since. What, you ask? Doesn't the child pay for the parent's sins? No, for if the child does what is just and right and keeps my decrees, that child will surely live. The person who sins is the one who will die. The child will not be punished for the parent's sins, and the parent will not be punished for the child's sins. Righteous people will be rewarded for their own righteous behavior, and wicked people will be punished for their own wickedness. But if wicked people turn away from all their sins, and begin to obey my decrees, and do what is just and right, they will surely live and not die. All their past sins will be forgotten, and they will live because of the righteous things they have done. Do you think that I like to see wicked people die? Says the Sovereign Lord. Of course not. I want them to turn from their wicked ways and live. However, if righteous people turn away from their righteous behavior and start doing sinful things and act like other sinners, should they be allowed to live? No, of course not. All their righteous acts will be forgotten, and they will die for their sins. Ezekiel chapter 18, verses 19 through 24. So Canaan must have inherited more than just the punishment Ham was due, but also, most likely, inherited his father's character as well. We don't know exactly what it was that Ham did, but it's implied that it was more than just disrespecting his father in his drunken state. Noah was, however, the patriarch of a new world, in the same way that Adam was, so disrespecting him at all was likely to carry a harsh punishment. And that's unfortunately what happened to Canaan. But it's important to note that the other sons of Ham are not given any specific curse that's recorded. The descendants of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod, who was the first heroic warrior on Earth. Since he was the greatest hunter in the world, his name became proverbial. People would say, "This man is like Nimrod, the greatest hunter in the world. He built his kingdom in the land of Babylonia." Genesis chapter 10, verse 6 and 8 through 10. Canaan's oldest son was Sidon, the ancestor of the Sidonians. Canaan was also the ancestor of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Arkites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zimrites, and Hamathites. Genesis chapter 10, verses 15 through 18. Pay special attention to that list of nations because we will be coming back to it later. At one time, all the people on the world spoke the same language and used the same words. As the people migrated to the east, they found a plain in the land of Babylonia and settled there. They began saying to each other, "Let's make bricks and harden them with fire." Then they said, "Come, let's build a great city for ourselves with a tower that reaches into the heavens. This will make us famous and keep us from being scattered all over the world." Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 4. But the Lord came down to look at the city and the tower the people were building. "Look," he said, "the people are united and they all speak the same language. After this, nothing they set out to do will be impossible for them. Come, let's go down and confuse the people with different languages. Then they won't be able to understand each other." In that way, the Lord scattered them all over the world, and they stopped building the city. That is why the city was called Babel, because that is where the Lord confused the people with different languages. In this way, he scattered them all over the world. Genesis chapter 11, verses 5 through 9. So likewise with the story of Ham and Noah, we are told such sparing details about this story that it's somewhat hard to understand. But we can get some clues from the rest of Scripture to help us make sense of this. He brought me to the north gate of the Lord's temple, and some women were sitting there, weeping for the god Tammuz. "Have you seen this?" he asked. "But I will show you even more detestable sins than these." Then he brought me into the inner courtyard of the Lord's temple. At the entrance to the sanctuary, between the entry room and the bronze altar, there were about 25 men with their backs to the sanctuary of the Lord. They were facing east, bowing low to the ground, worshipping the sun. Ezekiel chapter 8, verses 14 through 16. In the prophet Ezekiel's vision, he is shown the sins of the leaders of Judah that God is punishing the nation for. What he shows him is the people worshipping the false god Tammuz, accompanied with the practice of sun worship. The kingdom of Babylon had just brought Ezekiel and many other Jewish people into exile, and had been the dominant power in that region for some time. Assuming that Babylon was the successor kingdom of the people who built the Tower of Babel, then it would make sense that the religion of those people would have been passed down, perhaps with some changes, to their descendants. The god Tammuz was, in some historical interpretations, the actual son of Nimrod, who had become deified as the sun god of Babylon. Either way, the religion of the Babylonians is something that the God of the Bible can't stand, and will punish his people for engaging in. And perhaps, through the Tower of Babel, it was going to be forced upon the entirety of the human family. But God, in his mercy, always leaves us with the liberty to choose for ourselves who to worship. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17. Sons were also born to Shem, whose older brother was Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the sons of Eber. Eber had 2 sons. The first was named Peleg, which means division, for during his lifetime the people of the world were divided into different language groups. His brother's name was Joktan. Genesis chapter 10, verse 21 and 25. Eber was the patriarch of the line of Shem, alive during the fall of Babel. He's where we get the word Hebrew from, or Ebrew. This is also where we see the beginnings of the nations of the world start to form. The families descended from Noah all went their separate ways from the Tower of Babel, because they could no longer speak to one another. These are the clans that descended from Noah's sons, arranged by nation according to their lines of descent. All the nations of the earth descended from these clans after the great flood. Genesis chapter 10, verse 32. Then the Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you and make you famous. And you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you. All the families on earth will be blessed through you." Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. Then the Lord took Abram outside, and said to him, "Look up into the sky, and count the stars if you can. That's how many descendants you will have." And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. Genesis chapter 15, verses 5 and 6. As the sun was going down, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a terrifying darkness came down over him. Then the Lord said to Abram, "Know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated 400 years. But I will punish the nation that enslaves them, and in the end they will come away with great wealth. As for you, you will die in peace and be buried at a ripe old age. After 4 generations, your descendants will return to this land, for the sins of the Amorites do not yet warrant their destruction." Genesis chapter 15, verses 12 through 16. So the Lord made a covenant with Abram that day, and said, "I have given this land to your descendants, all the way from the border of Egypt to the great Euphrates River, the land now occupied by the Kenites, Kenizzites, Kadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites." Genesis chapter 15, verses 18 through 21. At this, Abram fell face down on the ground. Then God said to him, "This is my covenant with you. I will make you the father of a multitude of nations. What's more, I am changing your name. It will no longer be Abram. Instead, you will be called Abraham, for you will be the father of many nations. I will make you extremely fruitful. Your descendants will become many nations, and kings will be among them. I will confirm my covenant with you and your descendants after you, from generation to generation. This is the everlasting covenant. I will always be your God, and the God of your descendants after you, and I will give the entire land of Canaan, where you now live as a foreigner, to you and your descendants. It will be their possession forever, and I will be their God. Genesis chapter 17, verses 3 through 8. This is the point of the story where a lot of viewpoints start to become divided. Mainstream Christianity, Islam, and Judaism agree on a lot of what I've stated so far, but when we get to the story of Abraham, there arises such serious disagreements that blood has been shed for thousands of years over the diverging interpretations. Even though they would all have to agree that humans are all made in the image of God, Muslims, Christians, and Jews kill each other all the time. Not just despite that, but seemingly because of their religions. How is that? This is one of the main questions I want to try to answer in this series. So, let's review. We've looked at Heaven's courtroom and learned about our judge, advocate, and accuser. And we've looked at the original verdicts of God on the whole of the human family. We've learned about how they've been passed down to each and every one of us. The really interesting thing about the Bible is that you have to use it to explain itself. The scriptures can't be ignored, and they're all relevant. But if you don't read the whole story of the Bible, you will likely miss important context. I think before getting into the rest of what I have to say, it was important to establish the context of humanity truly being one big family, all made in the image of God, and how serious it is to God if we kill or oppress our brothers and sisters. God's judgment is weighed out on heavenly scales that take into account your specific place in your family, city, and nation. God's original intent can often seem like a far-off fantasy, but he has had a plan to restore this world to a more perfect Eden all along. It started with a lamb being killed in the garden, and it ended on a cross at Calvary. In the next video, we will be jumping into the modern day to take a look at this most recent war and its justifications. This is the end of the introduction to a much longer series. If you have enjoyed it so far, I hope you stick around for the rest. If I haven't already, I am definitely going to say things that you won't agree with. But if I haven't already made it clear, let me just say that I believe in Jesus and the Bible. I'm not trying to serve any political cause with my videos. I am just trying to be a light that reflects God. If I offend you, I truly am sorry. If you don't agree with my interpretations, let me know. I have the beliefs I do now because I was convinced by good arguments. We'll be coming back to the story of Abraham and finishing the whole story of the Bible eventually. But for now, I'll leave you with this. Whatever is good and perfect is a gift coming down to us from God, our Father, who created all the lights in the heavens. He never changes or casts a shifting shadow. James chapter 1, verse 17.